Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us in our webinar today. Today's topic is about how to automate the UAE final settlement calculations and the end of service calculations as well. So this topic is quite a bit of a debate usually between finance and HR, because one team has one calculation, the other team has another calculation, and you want to get it right because there can be problems legally between employee and employer. So getting it right, having a straightforward process is important, especially as you've got to make the payment within, I think, 28 days once the employee leaves. So super important. My name is Rayhan Aleem. I'm the managing partner and founder of Alpha Pro Partners. We're an accounting firm. We're based in Dubai, and we are Xero Platinum Partners. I'm very pleased to be joined by Malik Hamad, who's the customer success manager at Palm HR, and she's actually probably the best customer success manager we've ever come across with all the different apps we've worked with. So I know that's a bit of a big intro. So Malik, do you want to just tell us more about yourself and your role and about Palm?
Oh yeah, thank you so much for that awesome introduction, and thanks for that really positive feedback. Really appreciate it. Basically, Palm HR is an HRMS platform that started out in KSA around, let's say officially around 3 years ago. We started a little bit earlier than that, but our kickstart happened around end of 2020, and we're expanding out into other regions like the UAE and yeah, the system is really great to help automate a lot of processes, basically handle the employee life cycle from onboarding to offboarding, and that's what we're going to really talk about today is offboarding.
Just a quick message, and that is obviously we do Q&A at the end, so please add them to the comment section below and we'll read them out. There may be some labor law questions and I will try my best to answer them the best I can, but we're not labor law experts, and we've done previous webinars on that. We can obviously refer to experts who can help you within that field. This webinar is recorded and it will be shared on YouTube. So if you've missed it, don't worry, we'll share it with you as well. So Malik, over to you.
All right, so basically today I'm going to give you guys a live demo of what the offboarding part of the employee life cycle looks like in Palm HR, and talk a little bit about how you can customize and how like default settings for end of service in the UAE are implemented. Okay, so today we're actually gonna go to Hogwarts. Okay, so hope that's cool with everyone. Before I jump into the offboarding, just wanted to let you guys know of a really cool, actually fairly new feature we have. With the whole new AI trend, we actually added our own AI bots within the platform. You can ask any questions you have about HR, or even actually any questions at all, the bot can answer and hopefully give you guys some insight on those burning questions you have that you would like to know about. The cool thing is this shows for the admins and HR team and also for the employees. So if employees have a question or are not sure about something, they can definitely ask the AI bot as well at any time from the web app. So that's just a cool added feature we have put in recently. So next up, I just want to jump first right into the settings. Again, I said that Palm HR is a really great way for you to help manage your employee life cycle, manage things like onboarding, offboarding, and payroll and financial related calculations with the least headache possible. So within our settings, you can actually customize the settings about end of service. We have default settings for 3 countries: Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. So we have those settings implemented, and they are by legal entity, the country that it's assigned to. So if you are a company that is in Saudi Arabia, you're going to be able to apply by default settings related to Saudi. And if you are in the UAE, you're going to be able to have the default settings applied to your company based on UAE law. So you can see here we have a couple of sections related to how this is calculated. You can customize your day basis for leave encashment. So default setting is implemented, and you can customize also, what portions of the salary are considered towards your calculation for end of service. So by default, we have the basic, but you can always, if you want, be a little bit more flexible and include the other components of the package like housing, transportation, and any other components you've customized and added in the system. The end of service scenarios are implemented. So for termination and resignation, the values of what the employee is entitled to based on their period of service. And this is clarified further in the scenarios section here. We also have a really cool thing if you choose to give you some transparency across admin to employee, where the employee can view their end of service accrual so they can see what to expect in case of termination or resignation. So this is actually something that is toggled on or off based on your preference. So if you prefer to hide that, you don't have to have it visible to your team. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in the employee profile right now, okay? So in the team section, if we jump to any employee's profile here, we're going to notice a section called the financial section, and this is where the employee can see their financial accruals related to end of service. And you as the admin can also have a look at this at any time and see projection, let's say, of someone's end of service. If you knew that someone was planning on leaving or you're planning on terminating, you can select a specific date and you can see what the calculation would be for the user's end of service payment and their leave encashment accrual. So this is just a really cool way that you can quickly check out what the employee's end of service will be. Now the actual offboarding is what we're going to jump into next, something that is really easy to do and start. So I think we're going to get rid of Umbridge here. I don't think anybody likes her very much. So we're going to click on the 3 dots here, and then in the menu that pops up, select offboard, okay? So there's a full workflow here that comes related to termination and offboarding. The very first step, obviously, is we need to say when is the employee leaving, what's their last working day. So I'm going to say this person's last day is the end of this week. And the reason either one works. Let's say that we're actually getting rid of this person is being terminated. We can add a comment here to say, put more details for why the employee is being terminated or any additional notes that we need to show up. And we can set the notice date if the person has been notified what that notice date was. So let's just put it back a month from the actual termination date here. So the next step here is we can reassign the user's responsibilities. So if the person was a line manager for other employees in the system, we would be able to assign their reportees to someone else. And if they were in approval flows for payroll or requests, so there's someone who's responsible for approving the payroll or processing the payroll or for approving and processing any requests in the system, you can easily set someone to take their place if that person exists already. If not, you can definitely skip this step and move on afterwards. So this person doesn't have any reportees and they're not in any approval flow, so I'm just going to jump on to the next step. And the next step, which was skipped here, is if the user has any pending requests that are from now until the termination date, the system asks you what you want to do with it. So do you want the person to still consume those days, or do you want to cancel those requests and return that balance to the employee's actual leave balance? So this is annual leave. In this case, the employee doesn't have any pending requests or approved requests, so there's no action here. So the system will actually just skip this step right away. The next step is related to the vacation balance, which is really important for leave encashment, okay? So basically we have 2 options here. We can force the employee to consume any remaining vacation balance they have, which means that their last working day will be prior to their termination date. Or we can say, okay, I need this person to finish handover and I'm not ready to have them leave me until their last actual date. So then I can actually set this leave balance to be encashed. So if we're encashing, you can just toggle this little dot here all the way to the end of the bar here, and then this will encash all remaining days. So if you notice down here, this changed. We can do it again really quickly. If you see the total days consumed, so total days consumed will change as you toggle this up or down, and then leave encashment will change. And as you change the consumed days, the last working day will be adjusted as well, because again, when we're saying that the employee is going to consume these days, the employee is actually going to be on vacation until their termination date. For the sake of the example here, we're actually going to encash all of the remaining leave days. So you can see that the calculation has been done. And so this is the basic salary divided by 30 days to get the daily rate times the total number of days the employee has accrued. Okay. The next step here is in case the employee has any assets, the system will remind you, hey, Dolores has some assets that need to be returned before she leaves. Has she returned them, or when do you want her to return them? So we want these returned on the termination date, which we said was September 22nd. So I'm just going to update that date here, and I can make sure to include that in my workflow for her offboarding journey. Okay. So the next step is the actual final settlement. We can see here, based on the period of service that Dolores actually has, the final settlement or the end of service value is actually 0 because she's worked less than 1 year. So the system knows the period of service and considers that when calculating the end of service. If you guys want, and feel free to put this in the comments if you prefer, we can redo the example and give her a longer period of service and have a look at what that looks like for the end of service award. But basically, the actual labor law, the rules are calculated and the calculation is listed here, and you're going to get a breakdown of, how that calculation was done. Okay. So that should adjust the final settlement here. So now there we go. We do have now the actual final settlement value here. And when we hover over this I here, we can see how this was calculated. Okay. So I think it's 2/3 of the salary, right? Divided by 12 times 21 days for the actual number of period of service, right? To get that. That's that 12.
So in the UAE, I believe it's so I guess 2/3 of the salary would be the basic salary, right? So the basic salary with the of days that has been they've been in employment for, based on each year, will be each month of that kind of basic salary that they would accrue. Yeah,
so that's the calculation basis here. It's, again, we did termination, and based on the period of service, this is what this person is entitled to as end of service for their period of service. Okay, so you can see also the salary basis we have here. This is the basic salary. This person only has basic salary, so it makes it like very straight up here. So for the salary basis, and again, the default settings were implemented, so we had the basic salary as the basis here for end of service. And we can see what reason we selected here. Again, termination by company. So the employee has full EOS entitlements. Period of service is clarified again down here. And then after that, we have the leave encashment calculation, which we already looked at in the vacation balance section, but it breaks it down for you again and gives you details of how this is actually calculated. Now, sometimes you have some manual adjustments that need to be done in the end of service settlement. Maybe one circumstance that could come up is we talked about that asset. So it was a laptop, I think. Let's say the laptop was returned and was damaged. So you actually need to or want to collect the value of that laptop or that asset from the employee and deduct it from their end of service. So if you need to put any additions or deductions manually to the end of service settlements here, you can actually add those as manual deductions. You can customize this list in the settings. For now, just for the sake of the example, because I don't have one for asset damage, we can put it in here. Let's say a laptop is worth $1,000, and we can say for a damaged returned asset. So this then will show up for the employee and for you guys in the HR team and for the finance team when looking at the final settlement. Okay. So the next thing that we can do, before I jump to the next thing, actually, sorry, additions work in the same way. So if you need to put an addition, whatever, an extra bonus, you can also add it in here. Same process, select addition, select the type, and then put the amount of the addition. Okay. So you can see now here the breakdown of the total end of service award, which is the end of service plus the leave encashment. There are cases where you're going to pay this out in cash. Maybe your next pay run is not going to happen or until later than that 28-day deadline. Maybe it's not necessarily in cash. Maybe it's a check or a direct transfer outside of the salary. So you can actually even select to pay this out, or that this has been paid out already, so that the addition and deduction or additions will not appear in the employee's final salary. Otherwise, we don't select, this final settlement amount will be added to the next unprocessed payroll. So we did set the offboarding date to be October, but keep in mind that in the platform here, the payroll hasn't been processed for September. So the next unprocessed payroll is going to be September. So that's why it's saying that. But I'll show you now how this can be flexible and how you can add this to whichever payslip you're actually going to want to, okay? So if we now go to the next step, we have something called a workflow. And this is really cool. You can customize a checklist basically of things that need to be done in order to finalize the offboarding of the employee. So remember I said asset handover can be part of that. Even things like removing the employee from the company's health insurance, any like doing your exit survey, any tasks that are done as part of the offboarding journey of an employee, not included in this actual workflow here, can be added into this checklist. And you can always refer back to this once you're done the offboarding. If not everything is done when you're processing it in the system, that you can then check tasks off as you complete them, but you can set up the workflow here, add tasks that you need to write out the name of it. So let's say remove health insurance was one that I just brought up. So you can customize this fully.
Sorry.
And
A classic one, right? A classic one is email access, right? So I remember a long time ago when I used to work for a company, when I left, I still had access to my email, right? I think that is very important to add to your workflow to make sure your employees don't have access to your emails. And also sometimes you're paying for subscriptions, right? So if you've got Asana and Gmail and whatever have you, right? If you have these workflows to ensure that each member of your team, like whether it's IT or procurement, switches it off, it will save the company a lot of money. Yeah, no, super useful.
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool too, because you can customize it fully, but then also that you can come back to it after you finish this journey. So you can say, okay, what do I need to do for this person so they can be fully terminated? And then once you set that up, come back to it and check things off as you do them. So it's really cool. And I love that you mentioned that, like account access, because yeah, that happens everywhere. I find that somebody is gone, but they still have an account on HubSpot, but like why? So definitely a fair point. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, workflow, I think that's clear. You can totally, again, customize it as you need to on a case-by-case basis. So now we got to the final step. We got a validation. Oh, I didn't like that I added things in here. And sorry, because sometimes the demo is a little bit ugly. So we're going to just leave my workflow as if I didn't do it. So don't mind that. It's just a demo glitch. So now we're going to jump to the final step here, which is the actual breakdown of what we just did, essentially. So we can see the employee's notice date. We can see their last working day. We can see their termination date and the final settlement. I think I've selected a day that is a weekend as the termination date, which is why that last working day is the 18th of October instead of the termination day. We can see the value that we had just seen in the final settlement section here, which is again end of service plus total leave encashment. And then we see, okay, breakdown details of who, again, are we getting rid of? This allow email reusability is actually really cool because our system, the of a user is actually their emails. So you can only have one user ever in the system with the same email address at a time. And the email is connected with the user forever. Having this selected is if Umbridge were ever to come back to Hogwarts, we don't have to make a new email for her. We can just onboard her again with the same email address. So it saves you some hassle with your IT team and you don't have to worry about making new accounts and making new emails. Now we can reactivate the old one and then onboard her again to the platform. Okay. So once we've done this, we're done. We can say offboard. And because her offboarding date is in the future, she's still going to show up in the team page, but you're going to see a new icon is going to show up on her profile that's going to say that her offboarding is upcoming. When you hover over it, you're going to see her last working day. And this is going to be visible only to the admin and HR team, so you don't have to worry about privacy issues and people seeing details about their colleagues that they shouldn't. This is something that just shows up to the admin team. And when we go to to the actual offboarding section in the platform here, we can see that we have an employee scheduled to be offboarded, and we can revisit the offboarding journey. If we go to the profile, there's this new section now called Offboard, and this is where we can actually access the workflow, which in my example didn't work, so we're not going to find any data in there right now, but we're going to be able to click on it and find the checklist and mark things off as we complete them, which I mentioned before. And then we can also see the details of the final settlement, and we can download this. So downloading this is really important because we can then actually share this with the finance team or whoever needs to have access to this document in order to finalize the employee's offboarding. And it also includes the employee's final salary package as part of the final settlement. So everything financial related to that employee is going to be found in one place for the admin, HR, and finance teams to have a look at. Okay. You also have the flexibility, just so you guys know, in case from now until the actual termination date, you guys have changed your mind, the employee is actually sticking around, you can always cancel the offboarding for the employee and then they'll come back as if they were never offboarded before. It's just a small cool feature we have as well to help you guys to be able to be flexible. Or let's say you made a mistake and it hasn't happened yet, you haven't offboarded them, you need to adjust something, you can cancel and redo the whole thing all over again. Nobody will be notified of anything that has happened yet, okay? So really quickly here, because I think we're getting a little close on time, I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like in the payroll. So I'm just going to jump to the pay section and in the payroll. So we offboarded Bridge in October, right? October 22nd was the final date for her. Let's say we're going to be paying her final salary and final settlement and all of that in October. So I'm actually going to jump into October. We're going to start the payroll. You can see I have two companies here. So each company is separate, but Umbridge is in Hogwarts. She's not in the ministry. So we're going to start payroll for Hogwarts and jump into it here. So there's a lot of things going on here. I'm going to make it really simple. We're going to just search for Umbridge and we're going to jump into her payslip. We see a lot of information here. Remember, her salary was 30,000 dirhams, right? Right off the bat, the system tells me that her last active or date where she has a contract is October 22nd. So I know that this salary is actually a prorated salary for the month of October because the salary month is from the first to the end of the month. Whatever value here is the total value for those 22 days in October on a prorated basis. The proration can be customized, just so you guys know. Either default is that it's based on calendar days. So for a month like October, the total salary is divided by 31 days multiplied by the total number of days where the employee did have an effective contract. You can customize this though as well and have your month to be based on 30 days per month as a standard. So every month is calculated on 30 days per month. So depending on, the preference that you guys have from an accounting perspective. In the payslip, we see here, we don't see the end of service yet. And that's because it's actually in the action center here. We're going to see we have the leave encashment value that we just looked at in the end of service settlement, end of service benefit here, which is the actual EOS, and the manual deduction we put for the damaged laptop. So I can then now select all of these actions and I'm going to add them to the payslip for this month. Now we're going to see in the payslip we have the total salary that's prorated until the 22nd of the month. We have the end of service benefit that the employee has been awarded for the period of service they had based on the termination reason, the leave encashment value, and the deduction of 1,000 for a damaged laptop, making a total overall payment of 1,218 dirham. Now, again, if this has already been paid out or if it's transferred ahead of the payroll, we also have the option to mark this already as paid, and it won't be considered towards the total overall payment amount. So just another cool feature we have within the payroll to, I think, make everyone's life a little bit easier and clear things up for everyone. I think that's it on my end when it comes to end of service and how it's calculated, the final settlement, the final salary, leave encashment. I think that's what I've got there.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I think we will now see less arguments between finance and HR now, and more productivity for businesses who are doing the end of service and final settlement calculation. I need to correct myself. It's actually 14 days in the UAE that you need to make the settlement with your employee. So whether they leave, whether they resign, or whether you terminate them, it has to be done within 14 days. And that is a very short time to agree on calculations between departments, make payment. Literally, you can't use a spreadsheet anymore or to work it out. You need to get it all systemized on a system, so automated. So then it's all in one place. Finance and HR can sign off, and then you can make the payment. So just thought I'd just clarify that. We don't have many questions at the moment. We do have one question from a gentleman called Mazen, and I'm not sure if you can answer this, but he's asked, thank you for the insightful webinar. Given the recent announcement of the new UAE law allowing employers to invest end of service funds in approved funds similar to the IFC pension scheme, could you provide insights into Palm HR's approach and plans for incorporating this feature into the HMRS portal? Now, this has not yet been enacted in the UAE just yet for all companies. There's still more information that needs to come out. And I guess at this moment of time, you're not really going to have much information in terms of product roadmaps and how it's going to work. Back in the day when I used to run payroll and we used to do pensions for employees in the UK, we used to make payments directly to the pension fund for the employees, and they would then decide. The employees would decide, obviously, if they want to opt in or opt out of those pensions, and it will be made straight away. I guess there's two things. One, I'm sure Palm HR could create some sort of automation, but then the other side, they have to be open to opening their system so you can feed the data into them. So I guess this is something. It's a good question. Not enough information is available. Yeah, I'm sure you guys could probably do that if that was possible, right?
Yeah, eventually, for sure, we do want to make our system flexible and integratable with anything and to help automate those things, especially anything compliance and government related, but it is a work in progress for sure. So definitely a question that I would like to keep down and bring up to the product team as well after this call, for sure.
Yeah, because I know you guys in Saudi, you guys integrate with Mudded, right? For GoSee.
For sure, yeah. Exactly.
So it's not something that is completely alien to you guys. I guess it's just a matter of, it's a two-way thing, right? So it's not just you, but both of the counterparty needs to be able to be open to creating those kind of links as well. Yeah. I think that's it for today. Is there any closing remarks that you want to, final messages you want to mention?
Yeah, if you guys liked what you saw when it comes to the ease of access for end of service and how easy it is to process that and calculate it, please do be sure to check out Palm HR and ask for a demo, try it out, and see if Palm HR is going to be the right HR tool for you.
And what's the best way for anyone to contact you? Is it email? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, actually, through our website, they can reach out to the sales team and request a demo at palmhr.net at any time. And they're more than happy to give you guys a demo account and give you guys a demo presentation of the full platform, not just end of service. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for your time, Malak. And like I said, we'll be sharing the recording to everyone who registered. That will be available. And enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me and for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.